Welcome to Thieves' Cant, a tabletop gaming podcast, with your hosts, Jeremy Shane and Chris White.
Welcome in and welcome back. It is Saturday, June 7th, Thieves' Cant. I'm Jeremy Shane.
I'm Chris White.
Glad to have you back. Chris, how was your week?
I've had a really good week. We've had some storms. They've been weathered.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Back around to the weekend.
That's right.
Yeah. Did you get any gaming in over the week?
Only on the PC. Nothing nothing on the tabletop.
Did you take some dives?
Oh, yeah.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Chris is a big Helldivers fan. So when you play, are you diving?
Well, yeah, you are diving, actually. You're diving. But we saved Super Earth. So
how many
there's been a
times
lot of
have
victory.
you saved Super
This was
Earth?
the first time. This is the first time this happened.
Okay.
So yeah, we did that. And so there's been a quadrupling of CO1 permits distributed amongst the community. If you don't know, a CO1 permit is a permit that has to be filled out anytime you're going to do something that could result in a child being conceived.
Oh.
So in order to repopulate Super Earth, it's exciting. Unfortunately, the city where all of the administrative work was done was destroyed, so there's some delays. But soon you'll get your permit and you'll have your chance. If you don't play Helldivers, that whole thing probably made no sense at all. But
And also, if you don't play Helldivers, Chris wants you to.
I do. Come find me. We'll play.
Dive with me.
I just want somebody to dive with me. That's really all I want. I don't ask a lot.
Hey, coming up in today's episode, we are back in the Forge of Creation. We've been in there a lot lately as we continue to craft what is sure to be the adventure of our time.
Yeah, I think the masses are looking forward to this.
So we'll put some more layers of paint on our homebrew adventure using Mythmere Games' Tome of Adventure Design. In our crowdfunding spotlight, we are going to hell. More on that.
Are we diving?
But first, let's hit the headlines. All right, today's news segment all about the corporate churn, Chris, as Mike Mearls is leaving Chaosium from his full-time role there. Chaosium has hired a new CEO along with several other personnel changes. Former COO Neil Robinson is the new CEO. Brian Holland, their marketing director, is now the executive producer for RPGs. That's the position that Mike Mearls vacated. He has left Chaosium for a full-time role with Asmodee, but the press release does go on to say that Mearls will remain involved at Chaosium on select projects, including one of note, the new edition of RuneQuest.
So this is not a angry departure.
Doesn't sound like it, no.
Just sounds like he's going to work on Asmodee and
new opportunities.
Yeah.
So we'll see. All right,
okay.
So some changes at the top there at Chaosium and at Asmodee. We've got changes at the top coming for WotC as well. They're hiring a couple of positions to fill, Chris. Hey, two of us, two positions that need filling. Could there be a chance?
Don't get too excited just yet.
They need a new head of game ecosystem. That title says it all, doesn't it? They're also looking for a principal game designer. So head of game ecosystem, principal game designer.
Okay.
They would like you to have at least 8 years of experience in game design. That's their preference.
Now, when they say experience in game design...
Well,
does telling them they're dumb on the forums for the decisions they made count as game design experience?
What about spending lots of time in the Forge of Creation?
Oh, yes.
With your buddy.
Absolutely.
Bringing a little baby adventure into the world.
Now, I didn't even think we were padding our resume while we were doing this, but it's true.
Right? It's a happy little coincidence.
In fact, just by listening to the Forge of Creation, you're sort of taking part as well.
You could now be qualified for one of these two roles.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, the principal game designer leads the execution of D&D's major product releases, rules-adjacent systems, adventures, and platform-native features. Are you ready for some corporate speak?
Oh, yeah.
Lead the game design execution of major multi-SKU product suites, collaborating with cross-functional partners to align scope, tone, and player value.
Say it, Daddy.
Structure content development plans, including product mapping, design outlines, and contributor briefs that account for both analog and digital formats. I don't even know what I just said.
I have no idea. That was a foreign language to me.
There are about 800 more bullet points under that role. Let's take a look at the head of game ecosystem, a crucial leadership position responsible for driving the complete design and evolution of the D&D game system, to define and drive the long-term vision for D&D's core rules and gameplay systems, own the rules roadmap, and ensure mechanical consistency and interoperability between releases. I cannot believe I got interoperability.
That was
out of my
really
mouth.
good. That was one take.
I can't read any more of this.
No, it hurts. So,
which one of these jobs sounds more appealing to you?
I feel like I could do either one. I feel qualified at this
Slot
point.
right in.
I feel like just being able to explain what's written here, you should be hired on the spot.
That should be the interview process.
Yeah.
Can you interpret what we mean by bullet points 3 and 4?
Right.
All right.
Yes.
If you can explain it, you've got the job.
Does this make any sense to you at all? It's a trick question. Right. If it makes sense, you're lying. So
you can apply if you'd like. I'm sure those positions pay relatively well, and there's very little criticism involved with those roles too.
I'm sure, and it's a stable company too that doesn't do layoffs on a frequent basis or anything.
When you land one of these, your future is secure.
You're locked in.
No worries.
Yeah,
no
look
worries.
for the 401k, folks.
Good luck. Let's get away from the headlines because we are on to crowdfunding. Chris, you've been mentioning that the forest featured in the adventure that we're designing, that the forest needs a name. And unfortunately, one is off the board right now. We can no longer use 100 Acre Hell for the name of our forest because 100 Acre Hell from Mike Myler is now funding on Kickstarter. Winnie the Pooh goes to the public domain and all hell breaks loose, essentially. This is an adventure designed for both 2014 and 24 D&D 5e. You can also run it in Shadow of the Demon Lord. You can run it in Old School Essentials, and you can run it in Level Up Advanced 5e. So that's 5 different systems that the adventure can play in, which I think is a nice feature. So what's the gist here of 100 Acre Hell? Well, without the tempering presence of Christopher Robin, the magic that he brought to the 100 Acre Wood has turned it from a place of wonder into a thing of horror. Winnie the Pooh is oblivious to the dangers all around, thoughtlessly following the every whim of the thing that fills his endless honey pot until the day when it suddenly goes dry. And now, well, Winnie and the gang have to go out and find more honey. It's a sandbox adventure built to be played as Winnie the Pooh and friends, or with an original adventuring party. You get the entire 100 Acre Wood, each locale transformed, somehow altered by the evil encroaching upon the enchanted forest. 8 new monsters.
You know, I'm in a really good mood and a positive state of mind.
Yeah?
But I don't know who this is for. Like, have you ever thought, like, hey, you know, we've had trouble getting a session together. It's been 3 weeks.
Right.
Let's throw down on some poo. Like, really? Maybe the younger generations are into this. But it's not like a kid's thing, obviously.
No.
So anything like this, I can't imagine, like, wanting to really incorporate it. Like, I'm never like, boy, you know, when I was a kid, I loved the Ninja Turtles. I sure wish I could have a dark horror fantasy game around them. Like, it's weird. It's just, it doesn't do it. I guess I don't want that drug in.
We've talked a couple times on the show about the emergence recently of cottagecore, cozy RPGs.
Yes.
You know, so maybe this is taking that and saying, oh yeah, get cozy with this then. You want your cottagecore? Here, I'll give you cottagecore.
Get cozy with this.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know.
I was reading it. And I was looking at the page, and I
Not
was
for you.
just like, what? Why? What is this?
Not for Chris.
No, but I hope there are people who enjoy it.
There are 6 days to go. It is funded.
Yeah.
A $10 pledge will get you the PDF with all 5 game versions included, along with modules for both Roll20 and Foundry, so you can play it online. So $10 gets you all of that digitally.
Well, they met their goal.
They did meet their goal.
They found their
They
audience.
had an initial funding goal of $666.
600, perfect.
And I think they're just over $700 on this one.
Okay.
So.
Well, there you go. I hope everybody enjoys it. Enjoy their time in the 100 Acre Hell.
6 days to go.
Yeah.
Well, from one forest to another. Are you ready, Chris?
I am. I need a palate cleanser.
Yeah?
After that poo bath we just received.
Well, put on your protective eyewear because we are back in the Forge of Creation.
The Forge of Creation.
We continue our adventure design using Mythmere Games' Tome of Adventure Design, written by Matt Finch, and we have, Chris, you and I think that we've got the makings of something pretty cool here so far.
Yeah. We have somehow captured lightning in a bottle. Now we're just trying to hold on.
Essentially, we did a lot of rolling throughout the book, the Tome of Adventure Design, to come up with a lot of random elements in this forest, which is the central site of the adventure. We dumped all those parts out on the table, and now we are just trying to see how they connect. So you can always go back in the previous handful of episodes to catch up on everything, on all the nitty-gritty fine details. But what's important right now to recap?
Well, it's just understanding. We have the overarching story, which led our heroes. It's sort of the motivation to get you into the forest is that they're hired to try to find a path through this forest that, for whatever reason, has been nearly impossible for people to traverse or to map or to mark. And so that's what sort of let us in. It's obviously not going to be as simple as pathfinding and marking the territory. There's going to be a lot more to this. And so we established there's some sort of an antagonist that's trying to disrupt or destroy the forest.
Certain elements like this antagonist and like what their ultimate goal is, ultimate plan, still remain a little ambiguous, shrouded in mystery. We've got some key sites throughout the forest, the massive fallen tree, the giant anthill, which we're going to come back to, that arrangement of bones, the abandoned mine, the mysterious healing pods, that strange plant that grows in one area of the forest. Now, a lot of this is still, as we said, undefined. So it's our job to make things firm. Oh, my. So with that in mind, last week, we learned that beneath this massive fallen tree, this portal from the Feywild, something has come through that, our giant beetle dragon monster.
Yes.
Crawled up through the cavern system, knocked the tree over on its way up from the earth, and then somehow found its way to this. Well, I don't know if it found its way to the giant anthill. The anthill was built for it, perhaps, because we know that it has control over the native insect life.
Well, that's a good question. Was there already a structure there, and this thing just found it as acceptable as a place to set up shop, or was this a design the creature had? So when we're thinking about this anthill, it does present an opportunity, and one that we'll need to utilize in certain places, because what we don't want to overlook is the fact that we've said the Feywild has had an influence. Basically, there's been a tear. Okay, so there's a tear between the prime reality and the Feywild, and it's been generated by the Nexus, or the cocoon, as we were calling it. And so this could also be a spot where maybe that influence is strong. So a glimpse into the Feywild, when we consider creatures that might be in here, we talked about the bugs. Then we started talking about giant insects. And we started, last week we talked about potential like clickers.
Right, like humanoids that have been transformed by the creature.
Right. And so some of that may be the power of the creature, but some of it may also be that this is, in the Feywild, everything's bigger and brighter and or darker, as the case may be, but it's so maybe that Feywild influence is what's shaping this anthill. And so if that's the case, this in some ways might be a lot more alien than just a simple ant, a structure designed by ants.
Sure.
I mean, I love the idea of a dungeon modeled after an anthill with its various chambers and all those things. But, at the same time, we talked about maybe that's the upper levels, but as you descend, it becomes more and more alien and more Feywild, less the world you're familiar with. And so that creates a lot of opportunities, I think, to make this as a dungeon. I guess we could refer to it as a dungeon. Then I think it gives a lot of opportunity to give it a lot of flavor. That's just one possibility. I mean, we could certainly go a lot of other routes, but it occurred to me that this sounds mundane, and at a surface level, I think it should.
Yeah, right.
But as the deeper you go, I think it would be kind of neat if the players had a lot of cues that this is not natural. This is not what we're used to. This is something very different, very alien. And there's all kinds of ways you could go with that. I mean,
how would you show that?
Well, I mean, you could take insect architecture to the extreme, I mean, almost like like in the Aliens franchise, like that Geiger, right? Wasn't that the name of ours? Geiger, like the artwork there, how it's like mechanical and organic. Thank you very much. They organic at the same time.
Yeah.
I
love that
again,
idea.
very, very alien and very dark and ominous, and the lighting could be pale greens and what it could be fungus or it could be something else that's causing this lighting, whatever it is, but a really different kind of setting. Now you're going to have to remind me, what was our motivation for crawling in the anthole?
We had talked about the possibility of like the portal key, whatever that might be, being carried off by the ants.
Mm-hmm. So that might make this a later in the adventure kind of encounter, or you might discover it earlier.
Yeah. You probably want multiple reasons for the party to enter the dungeon.
Yeah.
I think the portal key is one. But aside from that, just the threat that the beast within poses.
Right.
What is the function of this monster beyond just layering in its anthill? Because if that's the extent of it, it doesn't really seem like much of a threat. It can just stay in there. We'll stay out here, and we don't need to bother. But I don't think that's what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be a greater threat posed here. So, if the characters never learn that there is a portal key, what else might draw them into the lair?
Right. What makes you want to seek out the thing that ripped this tree down coming out of there?
Right.
Yeah.
So we need to be aware of the threads so that we can make connections later on.
But on a side note, there might be some parties in the forest that we haven't talked about that might have an interest in seeing this portal closed. So we could definitely utilize those in that regard. So we'll go on. Now, whether it's going to be any of the NPCs we've mentioned or not,
right,
we'll have to figure that out. But yeah, I think you're right. We need more than just there's the portal key at the bottom as motivation.
It's all about story. It's all about the history of this place, the events that have occurred before.
Again, we mentioned NPCs. I think we kind of decided that a good spot for that might be the bones, where the bones were being organized and kept.
Right.
So we could look at that route. We could look at
let's do that.
Who lives there? What are they doing? Are they good? Are they bad?
You want to take a look at the clearing with the bones?
Let's look at the clearing.
Okay, so here's what we know to this point. It is a meticulously manicured and kept up area of the forest. Contained within it is a formation of bones, piles of bones, arranged in a very specific manner, kind of a wheel of sorts. And whenever we first rolled this up, one of the results that came up that we hit on was Oracle. This is a place where potentially the party could gain answers. So the big question is, who is keeping up the area?
Who's the Oracle?
Yeah, like who's the Oracle? Who are you getting answers from? Is it a spirit, a group of spirits, and some other entity?
Is it friend or foe, or neither? I mean, those are all really good questions. We're obviously looking at the only thing we've seen in the forest so far that might qualify as a quest giver. So it's possible with a place like the mine, it's as simple as clean out the evil spirit that inhabits this mine. I'll let you know what I've seen. This vision will help you along your way. I mean, obviously there's some tropes that accompany that, but at some point, someone's going to have to give us direction on where to go. So seems like a pretty good spot for that.
How are you thinking this place works? Like, is there actually someone that is going to speak with the party, or is there something that the party needs to figure out in order to like trigger the Oracle?
I have a thought as to what could be happening here, because we haven't talked about who resides in the forest. Are there any people that live here naturally? So what if this forest was inhabited by the natural equivalent of a death cult? In other words, basically everyone here worshipped the idea of predator devouring prey. Okay. So what that does is it doesn't necessarily give us reliable allies, but it means that there are people here who use reason, right? And so what we're seeing here is in this place is evidence of people interacting in this area. And if the party wants to watch, if the party wants to observe, maybe the party's being observed, right? Because I'm picturing if these are a people who worship the idea of predators, overcoming their prey and death, they're going to be, maybe they're robed in skin. Maybe it's the skins of bears and tigers, and they're very savage, maybe cannibalistic even.
Okay.
So these are definitely a people that the party could view as enemies, but they don't necessarily have to be, right? And so within this organization, at the head of it is this Oracle figure. And so this is a figure that uses the bones of prey animals. So that's how the predator obtains their power. And so that's how they foretell the things that are to come. They might see the changes to their forest as a negative thing. And so it's possible, if they understand the party is also opposed to that, they could become allies of sorts, right? And this Oracle could become a powerful source of information. Or the party could open fire and make a new set of enemies. That's just an initial thought to try to fit into this wild theme of the forest. So.
Well, I like the idea of a death cult. And you're right, the opportunity for foe or, kind of a shaky ally.
Right. There's not a stronghold here. There's not a safe place. You don't have friends here, and that's why this forest would have the reputation that it has.
All right.
It devours.
So you can't, the PCs can't just walk into this clearing and just get information. Like, you got to know what you're doing or have the proper connections.
I would say, except for, maybe there's certain times of day or night, there's rituals happening here when the Oracle does their thing. It's probably abandoned. People are off doing their thing or observing.
If you're up for some random rolls, there is a section in the Tome of Adventure Design on tricks, which indicate challenges that the PCs have to overcome that are not in the form of a monster or a trap.
Yeah.
Right? Could be a riddle of some kind. So I don't know what sorts of results we might get from the wild cards matrix for tricks, but we could give it a shot. There's a series of rolls that we could make, D100s.
I think it sounds fun.
Be willing to pivot here, depending on what
well, that's what I like about it. It's like you can brainstorm and have these ideas, but the randomization makes you change direction.
Okay, so the first roll is for hints.
Hints. Here we go. 74.
Visible hints. It says searching or observing the situation may give you valuable information. Okay, as you said, perhaps the party is observing a ritual. The next roll is for structure. I don't know that the structure roll is necessary. We have the bones.
Okay.
So let's move on to rewards.
44.
Now, before even looking at the results here, in my mind, the reward would be you get the information you're looking for. That's where the whole oracle thing ties in. But let's see what the roll gives us.
Okay.
You said 44.
44.
Gain a magical condition or bonus.
Okay.
So maybe in addition to information.
Okay.
Maybe some protection against this awful monster from the Fae.
Or how about this? Would this be cool? Maybe these people know an oil that you can put on yourself that prevents you from being smelled by insects.
Ooh, that's good.
That's kind of cool.
That's good. And that's how they have, to this point, been unaffected, untouched, when so many other humanoids have been altered and now serve the creature.
Yeah.
And this death cult.
They're effectively invisible.
I like that.
Okay.
Next roll is for risks. Risks concerned in utilizing the oracle.
Okay. 42.
Physical risks.
Okay. We're going to die.
Right. Well, maybe, it's all about bones. You're getting, if the oracle is speaking through the bones, physical sacrifice is required.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Nice. I like it.
All right. So there's a physical threat.
Okay.
Physical risk. And then the last roll is for solutions and interactions.
27.
Movement and actions. For example, stepping onto the correct colored tiles on the floor. Again, this is a roll that perhaps we don't need if we know that only the oracle really knows how to manipulate the bones.
Unless this clearing is more than it seems, like a series of natural traps or pitfalls. Maybe it's just a simple defense around the clearing.
Okay, so the solution that the PCs are looking for is how do you gain access to the area?
Maybe it's a little dangerous. There may be a path of sorts that leads to it. It may be trapped, or the area surrounding, the woods surrounding, may have tripwires, or maybe something as simple as just, walls of briar that make it difficult to progress.
If the place itself has been meticulously maintained and cared for, then your suggestion that access to it can be tricky would also make sense. These people have taken the steps.
If for some reason this place is clearly sacred to them, it has a power. There's something that draws them here, something that draws the oracle here, and this is where the oracle's primary function takes place.
Let's clarify one aspect here, the oracle itself. Because whenever you reference the oracle, it almost sounds like kind of a high priest of sorts. Whenever I first heard oracle, I guess my initial thought was that this was a kind of a more mystical force.
Like a spirit?
Yeah, a spirit of sorts,
okay,
perhaps. But I like the idea of
I kind of
having
like
the shaman or high priest.
I like the idea of a force spirit. I kind of like that better.
Well, is the high priest kind of leading this ritual that taps into the oracle? Thereby, they have the strong connection.
You could have both.
Right.
You could have a shaman that
both
communicates with the oracle.
Right.
Yeah.
Only the shaman knows how to manipulate the bones in such a way as to establish communication with the oracle, to receive the answers.
And I like it, though, because then you have two different personalities, perhaps with two separate interests. Yeah, so you have this shaman with this group of followers who, communicate and serve. I would assume serve the oracle, whatever the oracle might need help with.
Right.
But then you also have the oracle, and that's a little more mysterious because we don't know anything about this other than it has power. I like that. Having an NPC to communicate with, but also having this oracle, this mysterious force that is apart from anything else we've encountered, right? This isn't affiliated with the Feywild. It's not affiliated with The antagonist we spoke about earlier, it's not from, even, so, what is the Oracle's motivation?
Sure.
It's interesting.
So we've got our clearing with bones that we now know is maintained by a death cult who practices rituals here, led by some sort of high priest or shaman.
Mm-hmm.
They protect themselves with some sort of oil, prevents the insects from sensing them, from detecting them. At some point, the PCs are going to have to interact with this cult to get access to the Oracle, to get information that they need.
Right. Yes.
Perhaps in relation to the portal key.
Yeah, this is a big information hub. The other interesting aspect about what we're talking about here is if the party chooses violence, if they just start killing this cult offhand, the Oracle would still be there.
Right.
It's just a question of could the party figure out a way to communicate with it or what it was.
Right.
They'd lose that medium in between perhaps, but it might not cut off the path completely.
No, and I don't think it should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Looking at the time, that's probably as far as we get today, but we now have a much clearer idea of what this bone hinge is all about, why it exists, and how it can tie into the adventure.
Yeah. The roles, it is difficult, I think, when you get down to this level of detail. The roles really help a lot at first, but I do feel like these roles were helpful. I think they opened up, it's just expands your thought process. Maybe it's not what I would have thought of.
Right.
But when presented with that random role, it's like, well, we can use that, though. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I do like that.
So we still have the abandoned mine to address. Lots of questions about that that we'll get to in the future, as well as what those healing pods are, what protects them. So we will turn our focus to those aspects next time.
I love the idea of the healing pods, but I have no idea what the details are going to be there.
Right.
That's interesting.
All right. So more to come. We will dive back into the Forge of Creation as we continue to flesh this thing out. Hey, in the meantime, if you want to weigh in on anything that you've heard, you've got comments, we want to hear from you, and you can drop us a line at Thieves Can't Cast. Let me say that again, thievescantcast@gmail.com. You'll find us on social at Thieves Can't Cast and on YouTube at Thieves Can't Podcast. I think that hits all of it.
And if you get bored, you could always subscribe or like or whatever it is on the platform.
Drop us that 5-star review.
Yeah.
And in all seriousness, we would love to hear from you. Drop us an email. Again, thievescantcast@gmail.com. Hate mail? We would love it.
Yeah. Tell us how terrible we are.
I would love to share your feedback.
Tell me how funny my voice sounds.
Yeah.
I don't hear it enough.
Yeah.
So
I don't hear it enough either. I can't believe I've got to wait a week to hear those sweet sounds again. So until that time comes, have a great week.
You too. And don't forget to apply for those roles at Wizards of the Coast. Some real opportunities there for you.
You've got a bright future ahead. Hey, we'll see you next time. It's been Thieves Can't. I'm Jeremy. He's Chris. So long.
Thank you for listening to Thieves Can't. Email thievescantcast@gmail.com.